I read an article yesterday about an African American woman, that was writing about the discrimination that black women face in the workplace in America. So after writing this piece, which was an educative piece, you know, a young man, a white man, of course, sent a message to her telling her that everything is not racism. Maybe these black women are just unlucky in the workplace, and that kind of made me think about a few things. You see, when things happen to African Americans, whether women or men, some people will try and tell you to rise above it, to overcome it. That rather than them trying to change the system that makes it unfair, that melts out the unfair treatment, a system that is created to enforce this injustice, a system that benefits from this injustice, and a system that dishes out this injustice. They don't want to tackle that. What they rather tell you is that you should rise above the discrimination, you should rise above the hatred, and yes, some people rise above it, a token few rise above the hatred, discrimination, but many don't. Many become a victim of this discrimination. After all, that is why the system was set up, to make many people victims, so, and it has gotten to a point that sometimes some white people don't want to hear about it. Even some black people don't want to hear about the discrimination and the unfair treatment. They rather have their head in the cloud and not think about it, not worry about it, until eventually happens to them and they're like, whoa, this thing that happened to me is racist, or this thing that happened to me is so unfair. Sometimes again, I always picture the trauma that African Americans face in America. We all know that their forefathers were kidnapped from Africa and taken over to America, where they were crudely exploited. They exploited, their labor was exploited, their bodies were exploited, right? And then even those that they gave birth to became owned, like they were owned, right? And then you are in America where you know that the system hates you. They hate you to the point that they don't even consider you American. They rather consider you African American. African American, and you don't have any roots in Africa. You don't know your roots in Africa. You're stuck in America. Like you're trapped. And this system hates you. Discriminates against you. And then you look at the money that you spend everywhere. You see the people on the money as slave owners, people that owned your forefathers. And then some of these African Americans represent America in athletics, in football, and basketball, and they represent the same country that exploited their own people, their own parents. What kind of traumatic thing is that? That's the trauma that African Americans face that is never talked about.